It's wonderful to be back again with you and to take up again our reading of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Suzuki Roshi. This has been going for a few years now, and things go on and go on and go on, and one day they stop going on. So this is how things are. So where are we? We are on page 90, negative and positive. The more you understand our thinking, the more you find it difficult to talk about. The purpose of my talking is to give you some idea of our way, but actually it is not something to talk about, but something to practice. Throughout the Zen tradition, silence is always there teaching us. And this silence is nothing other than zazen, is nothing other than seated meditation, is the truth unfolding. This silence is, well, we see it in the flower sermon, where Shakyamuni teaches and transmits the Dharma for the first time in the Zen tradition to Mahakashyapa by showing the thusness of a flower. We see it in the first case in the Book of Equanimity, where the Tathagata Shakyamuni Buddha takes to the teaching platform, ascends the platform. I think it's Manjusri who announces his teaching. Shakyamuni ascends to the platform and descends again. In other koan collections like the Blue Cliff Record, I think the first case has a similar teaching. So we see this teaching again and again and again. And Suzuki Roshi is offering it here. The best way is just to practice without saying anything. Because everything is already complete. Everything is already here. Enlightenment, nirvana. Here it is. So it's our deluded and clouded mind that stops us from seeing this. And through practice, we open up our Dharma eye and we can see things as they truly are. So people come to practice with many questions. They say, "What do I need to read? What sutras should I read?" Well, you don't need to read any sutras. You just need to sit. You just need to sit zazen. Master Dogen says that in Kankin, I think in the Shobogenzo, reading sutras, the point is that this is a sutra, the ultimate sutra, the true sutra. Here it is. This is it. So when people come to practice, they say, "What do I need to read? What do I need to study? What do I need to believe in? Is Buddhism a theistic or atheistic religion? Is it a religion at all? Is it a philosophy? Is there a self? Is there no self? What is there? What do I have to believe in to be a Buddhist, to practice the Zen path?" No. Sit. Arrive. Suzuki Roshi is teaching this today. If you understand this point, we will understand how to talk about Buddhism, and we will have perfect communication. So the point is not some intellectual understanding of the way. The point is to manifest the way. This is Zen. This is Zen. The Sota way always has double meaning, positive and negative, always our way. And our way is both Hinayanistic and Mahayanistic. I always say our practice is very Hinayanistic. So it's very much like the original school's school of Buddhism, the original spirit of the Dharma, in terms of its formality and, I suppose, strictness of practice. That's how it seems on the outside. But as Suzuki Roshi says, the Mahayana spirit in there is one of great freedom and informality, despite the outward appearances of the Soto Zen way. It is your discrimination which makes it formal or informal. Inside the practice itself, there is no formal or informal. So he's talking about what used to be called the Hinayana, the older school, the Theravadan school, the Theravadan spirit of practice, the school of the elders, and the Mahayana, the development of the later development of putting emphasis on the Bodhisattva way, that the purpose of our practice is to relieve the suffering of all sentient beings. If you observe our precepts in just a formal way, you lose your Mahayana spirit. Before you understand this point, you always have a problem. But if you understand our way completely, there is no such problem, because whatever you do is practice, and as long as you have Mahayana mind, there is no Mahayana or Hinayana practice. So the point is to truly observe the precepts, not in some literal slavish way, but in the true spirit of liberation, the true spirit of sunyata, of you are me and I am you. Sometimes, of course, the more compassionate thing that the Bodhisattva must do is break the precept, or go into the taverns and preach the Dharma, to work among the poor and to work among those cast out by society. Not to be in some way rigidly pious. That spirit, that rigid pious spirit, is not the point of the Bodhisattva way or of the Mahayana spirit. So the point is not a literal slavish following of the ethical precepts, but to follow the spirit of them rather than the letter. And he goes on here to quote Dogen. Dogen Zenji said, "When you say something to somebody, he may not accept it, but do not try to make him understand it intellectually. Do not argue with him. Just listen to his objections until he himself finds something wrong with it." Very subtle, this Zen way. We're not out there to convince others, to proselytize. We are there to compassionately be with others, just to be with others in a supportive way as our Bodhisattva practice. This is very interesting. Try not to force your idea on someone, but rather think about it with him, says Suzuki Roshi. If you feel you have won the discussion, that's the wrong attitude. But also if you feel you have lost the discussion, this is also the wrong attitude, he says here. So there isn't a kind of an agenda here in the practice. There isn't an agenda to try and convince intellectually someone to accept the doctrine, some doctrine of Buddhism or Zen. Because the practice of the Dharma, the practice of Buddhism, of reality, well, I just said it, that is the practice. The practice is reality itself. This is what the Dharma is. This is the thusness of our way. Not to say anything may be very good, but there's no reason why we should always be silent. Whatever you do, even including not doing, that is our practice. That is the expression of big mind. So big mind is something to express, but it is not something to figure out. So the Zen way is not to grasp it, to keep studying it until we have it grasped. We go, I understand it. I have it in here. No. This is not the way. The way is already here. The universe does not need to be realized. It is already realized. The way things are isn't out there in the future and in some future understanding of it. The way things are is right here and right now. So big mind is something you have, not something you seek for. Big mind is something you have. Continually we return. We return and we return. When we are seeking out there, that's when we are lost. Because what we have, what we need, the truth is already here. So we don't have to find it in the Himalayas or in the monasteries of Japan or in the caves of China. We have it here in the ordinary life that we live. This is the ultimate truth. Maybe that's too simple to understand sometimes. Only because you seek to gain something through rigid formal practice does it become a problem for you. But if we appreciate whatever problem we have as an expression of big mind, it is not a problem anymore. We will never get to this point where everything in our life is in balance, where we have everything sorted out and we go, job done. That's delusion. Actually, that's fantasy and delusion. What happens is that we don't find freedom from suffering, really. What we do is we find freedom within suffering. We find that the freedom is there already. That despite the fact that everything in our life isn't figured out, dusted off, tied up neatly with a bow, despite that, it is absolutely fine. This is what Suzuki Roshi is teaching here. Whatever problem we have as an expression of big mind, then we appreciate we don't have a problem. Sometimes our problem is that big mind is very complicated. Sometimes big mind is too simple to figure out. That is also big mind. But because you try to figure out what it is, because you want to simplify the complicated big mind, it becomes a problem for you. So whether you have a problem in your life or not depends upon your own attitude, your own understanding. Some people have almost nothing and are greatly content, and others are surrounded by luxury and are greatly discontent. So the Dharma understands it is all originating with mind. It begins and ends with mind. And this is the teaching here. Our own attitude. This is very empowering, very empowering. Because of the double or paradoxical nature of truth, there should be no problem of understanding. If you have big Mahayana mind, this is the kind of mind we have obtained by true Zazen. So, This practice of ours is about seeing things as they really are. Not seeing things as negative or not seeing things as positive, but seeing things as they really are. Not attaining some intellectual understanding, not attaining some kind of perfection, but seeing that the perfection is already here. Again and again, Bodhidharma, Dongshan, all the masters, Dogen, including Suzuki Roshi, they're teaching this same truth again and again. What's lovely about Zen mind, beginner's mind, is that Suzuki Roshi teaches these truths in an accessible way for our time. That's why I love this book so much. This book really is Zazen. This book is incomprehensible unless you are sitting Shikantaza, unless you are sitting Zazen every day. So throw this book away, sit Zazen. That's the most important thing. Nirvana, the Waterfall, page 92. At some stage, we'll return to that point. So, thank you for your practice. Thank you for your attention. Enjoy your practice.